Leave your ego at the door and get ready to be raw. This is Strength to Overcome, where real men find their strength in weakness. Hi, guys. Welcome back to the Strength to Overcome podcast. I'm Ryan here with my co-host Matt. This is episode 21, and we are pumped to be back with you. We've kept the streak alive, Matt. We've had it going now since, April, the end of April, and we're just rolling right along. Another Thursday episode.
Yeah, mate, great to be here. And as I always say, it's the highlight of my week. And I know we stay in touch outside of this, but the importance of actually getting together and sharing what's really on our hearts and what we're going through. And I think we've both been through some disappointments over the last week or so. And, it's funny that even today we find ourselves in that situation of just feeling a little bit of a, smack upside the back of the head with an expectation that's fallen through. And trying to figure out, well, how do we handle that, right? I'm keen to hear how you're doing as well, on camera as we kind of open up a little bit about disappointment.
Yeah, it's tough because if somebody's been listening the last couple of weeks, we keep saying we've got a guest coming on, right? Next week we've got this guest who's going to be great, and then the week shows up and here it is, just you and me sitting here chatting away again. So we've had that happen 2 or 3 weeks in a row now where we've tried to get a guest lined up and we've kind of had the okay, the thumbs up, and then last minute we get the thumbs down and they kind of disappear a little bit, and we've kind of had trouble wrangling in our guests to get on the podcast and talk about what they seemed excited to talk about, which is interesting to you and me. We've talked a little bit about it off camera, just the vulnerability aspect of sharing your story or sharing what's important to you and getting it out there to a live audience or at least an audience out there that's limitless with the podcast world seems to be kind of tough for people, don't you think?
It's funny. I think last week off air, I remember coming to you and saying, listen, I just want to kind of let you know how proud I am of you. Not that I'm your dad or anything, but just the ability that you've shown in showing up here. I know very early on, some of your testimony was pretty tough for you to share, and your default may not necessarily be to open up and put that out there, but you tried to not necessarily get out of it, but you really were having a bit of a hard time thinking, well, how do I present it? How do I share it? Like, this is really deep and you've got some deep scars. And so it was a challenge for you to even get on and do it. And not only that, but you've stayed the course. And in fact, now I feel like we're in a real groove where we just know we're going to be shooting something with someone, and, here you are. So, I mean, kudos to you for being out with me doing this. And the more we go down this path of opening up, sharing our story of the hole that we've been in and trying to come out of, the more I realize that to open up, to share, to be vulnerable, to let those scars be seen by others, it's actually very hard. It's very emotionally draining. And I think for a lot of people, it's kind of scary.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the idea of it sounds okay in the moment, and then once you get down to game time and things, the clock's ticking away to jump on the screen and go live, it's you start thinking about all the things that people might think of you or who might listen to this recording at some point, and I think it's definitely scared some people away a little bit. Kudos to you too for jumping on each week and putting your heart out there as we're navigating these difficult times together. And we're just gonna, keep rolling, even though we've got some disappointment. We got to keep rolling through it and keep pressing on and find the people that do want to share their stories and really get their stories. I mean, we've had some great guests, right? Grant, Stretch, Corey was on, shared a great episode there. And so kudos to those people who were willing to jump on and really share and put themselves out there.
Yeah, and I know Margot, when she was on, she was so pumped up the week before we went live. She was blowing it up, texting us, ready to go. I mean, she couldn't wait to get on there. And it's that infectious type of personality that sometimes shines through. But there's always something in the background. There's always been a challenge, right? There's always been a trial or a trauma, and it's really hard. And I think that for me personally, over the last week or two, I've been through a bit of a disappointment where I feel like, I've had some family struggles internally where I have struggled to sort of share my needs, my hopes, my dreams, or maybe I feel like I have, but they haven't been heard, or the way I've handled my perceived rejections of getting that help has been misunderstood. And, instead of me trying to, you know, learn how to put it out, I think sometimes I just let it bottle up inside of me, and it can come out in a bit of a bottleneck episode of frustration. And I've shared early on in this podcast the trouble that I've been through. And when you're addicted to self gratification, and you have something that you've used to release tension or to get through tough times, or you've struggled with overcoming things, or a bad day or a bad week or an argument or whatever, and all of a sudden now you've been through this series of events where now no longer do you have those releases, whether it be self-gratification or a drink or gambling, or a sport, or you can binge watch a TV show, right? It doesn't matter. You found something that helps you numb the pain. And I felt over the last couple of weeks particularly, I've struggled to figure out, well, how do I share it? Because when I'm calm and I want to talk about it, kind of gets blown away. If I kind of lose my cool and just lose it in frustration, that doesn't seem to really hold me over very well. And I found over the last couple of weeks just feeling more and more isolated. And the answer to me has been, well, I'll just crawl back into my shell, which is a very dark, lonely place to be in, which, hoping we've got a handful of guests that can really speak to this. And I pray that they'll jump on, hopefully soon, that can really help me, you, anyone that's listening understand, well, isolating is not good either. Neither is losing your crap, and neither is just hoping it'll go away,
Yeah. Yeah. What have you found been the toughest part of the last couple of weeks, kind of dealing with that urge to isolate?
It's been tough because I'm going back into the career of health and fitness and working with people, and I've been through so much in the last 5 months. I've got a lot to give, but also a lot of emotional trauma there of, being in this position of having to start from scratch, right? I've done it so many times, moving around the world, different states, starting up again, building up a clientele of people that are going to believe in you and follow you and do what you say in the health and fitness industry while I'm broken physically is very hard for me to process and think through. What does that look like when I'm talking to a brand new stranger and I can't even demonstrate a push-up, right? What is that going to look like? And so I don't think anybody's really thinking, well, that's how tough is that? And it's not a woe is me kind of moment. It's maybe just a little more support, a little encouragement, a little bit of, wow, good for you for pressing on. And it's not that I need that pat on the back. It's that I think everybody needs a little bit of support when you're about to do something that might be tough, challenging, emotionally draining, as we've both talked about. Being a full-time trainer and doing 30 hours a week on the floor, that's a lot, right? It's like being in counseling for hours upon hours, and programming and nutritional side or rehabilitation. We take on the role of therapist and trainer and support network for all these people, yet I found the last couple of weeks finding myself with no one to do it for me, which is just very challenging. It's making me stronger, but at the same time, I watch people just fall off the wayside that I thought would be there no matter what I did or said. I'm not justifying anything, but when it's tough and you're really struggling, you need a couple people in your life that can just sit and listen. And you've been one behind the scenes, and a couple other buddies, but sometimes you maybe lean on people that aren't equipped or don't know how to handle it. And so you expect more, but that disappointment can be even greater with those that you thought were going to be there for you, but they've turned out to not necessarily, at least in that capacity, or maybe they don't know how to, or maybe they just don't want to. So that's where that disappointment for me has been really tough to challenge and to go through alone and self-isolated, which is not a good place to be.
Yeah, no, I bet. You're about to put a bunch of mental and physical energy into this new job, new career coming up with building your client base back up on the gym floor, and trying to work toward 20, 25, 30 floor hours a week of training. That's going to be big output. So having a support network in place is huge. And I think a lot of people are just desensitized to support. Probably a lot of it's due to social media, and they're used to just seeing the highlights on social media. Facebook has the highlight reel that you just hit the like button. They don't know how to react to a tough time or when somebody's struggling. And in real life, there's no like button for that. They can't just hit a button. They actually have to respond and be there. And I think that's something that social media has desensitized people to over the years, don't you think?
Well, there's no doubt, and it took me a long, long time, several decades, to get on Facebook because of that very deep, dark hatred towards that very concept that I still hold to today. Even though we're trying to grow a community, it's almost a two-edged sword where we want to use the very thing that we know can be a blessing to others, but if used poorly, it can be a distraction. And I kind of liken that to, even my own journey, right? There's so much that you can get distracted on with social media or TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, these type of venues. And, you start clicking on the wrong pictures or the wrong images or the wrong videos, wrong reels. Before you know it, your phone or the system knows, hey, this is what they've clicked on. This is what they've looked at a little bit longer. This is what it is that hooked them in. Let me show you more of that. And so it's almost like this self-fulfilling prophecy where you may not necessarily intend to do something, but you can find yourself caught up in pretty much anything, any addiction or any kind of, like that you want to watch. You might like watching, home renovations, sport, women, guys, self-help videos. Doesn't matter. You can get yourself caught up in those. And if you spend too much time on anything, it can really slow you down. And then when someone's actually in need or you see a post that's actually got some heart behind it, you kind of give it a heart. But do you really then say, you know what? Based on what I've just read or seen, I think they might be hurting. I think they might be struggling. This is a bit of a cry for help. Maybe reach out to them on the side. And we've talked about that in a past episode, reaching out to someone. But, we're trying to use the very system that slowed us down. And I know you've kind of battled that a little bit the last week or two with what you and Erica were trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we set up a photo stream of Callan, it's kind of his just named Callan James Robertson. And we've got our closest family and some of her close friends on the photo stream just to share images and videos pretty much daily of Callan. And it was kind of a cool idea and one that we really were really into at first. And it's almost like a Facebook type of setup where people can like and comment on each photo that gets posted. It's shared across everybody's phones that's in on the shared album. But what we've realized is it's almost led to a disconnect. People just like and comment on the photo, and we don't hear from those people. It's the funniest thing. They like and comment all day long, every day, but in real life, there's no outreach. There's no, hey, how you holding up? How you doing? What's going on? Probably because they've got that dopamine hit of just being able to like a photo, and in their mind, that box gets checked. Oh, yeah, I checked in. I hit the like button. I saw what they're up to. That's my check-in for the day, even though there was no actual physical connection whatsoever, both going both ways. Mentally, it stimulated that same neuron, I guess, in the brain to where like, oh yeah, I've checked in on them. I see what they're up to. Cool. And so that's kind of what we've experienced a little bit over the last 9 weeks, really, since he was born, is that we've got a lot of people liking photos and commenting on photos, but not quite as many checking in, at least on me and that sort of thing. And it's kind of interesting how that's shaken out.
What has it made you do or think about doing? Because we've talked about addictions and having things in our lives that we've reached to when things hurt, right? And that's all that really most people are doing. They're covering up a hurt, a pain, a scar, a loss or loneliness, doesn't matter, but they're doing those things to cover up that emotion. How has it made you feel?
Just kind of, abandoned a little bit and frustrated. It kind of makes me want to say F it and just pull the whole photo stream down and take it away. And it's like, all right, nobody's going to see these pictures or videos anymore if we're not going to connect in real life and there's not going to be a true support network. Let's just pull the whole thing down, and I'll just, like you said, the word isolate. I'll just stay to myself and put my head down and go through my day. I'm already going through my day feeling alone, so let's just go ahead and keep on keeping on. I'm not gonna. Why are we putting forth this effort to share all these photos when there's no real connection coming back the other way?
Has there been anyone in your life that's kind of stood up and shone through and surprised you, or at least been there with you?
Yeah, I mean, besides you and Erica, of course, my mom has really been has been big, and she lives here in Jacksonville with us, and so she's been pretty consistent with texting and coming over to see him, and because she has that luxury of being here. Of course, not everybody has got the proximity luxury, but she's been excitedly texting and wanting to come see him, wanting to learn how to heat up the water for his bottle. And she's going to start doing some babysitting for us starting this week. We've got every week coming up for the next 4 weeks. We've got an event to go to, culminating with actually in October, we're going to Virginia for Erica's friend's wedding. So, we've got event this week, event the next week, event the next week, and then flight to Virginia coming up. So my mom is going to be a big player in taking care of Cal on some of those days, and then also taking care of the dogs while we're gone on our trip. So yeah, it's been refreshing to see her step up in that way, and yeah, it's interesting to see how the social disconnect works with others, though.
Has it surprised you that she's dialed it up? Did you expect that, or has it been a real deep down love that's like, wow, this is a real bond from a parent to a child, and you're seeing it multi-generational here?
I wouldn't say it surprised me just because she literally upped and sold her house the moment she found out we were pregnant. She literally put her house up for sale within a week and was moved down here within a couple months of finding out that we were expecting. So that level of excitement and dedication had already been there from the start, and she's just kind of continued it. So that's kind of cool.
It's great to be able to give props, and it's so heartwarming to know. Obviously, my mum and dad have passed away, and so, every day I really, still wish that they were here so they could have seen me become a dad. I got there late, and so they missed out on seeing that. But, I think there's some power to having that support, that family dive in. And, it's funny you'd mentioned your mum. Obviously, we were in California when we got pregnant, and we moved here with an 8-week-old baby. And, my mother-in-law did the same as what your mum did, right? She sold her place or, packed everything up. At least she was actually here when we got here. And, that created a little bit of, some friction there as we're all just trying to learn how to be parents and, be together for that time before, the move out happened. And, I look back, and even now, for her, Heather's mom and dad have really stood up and really been there for us lately, but just by just taking care of the kids or staying an extra hour or two when we're caught up with work and Ubering and, shifts that she's picked up. And they've been that blessing to us in their own way, right? I think that not everyone, like I said earlier in the episode, knows how to handle those things, and so they shine through, I think, in the ways they know best, and not everyone knows how to do that or handle it. But it sounds like your mom has really stood up, and I think that that's such a huge blessing because not everybody has that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's important to, like you said, take time and recognize and be thankful for that for sure, instead of always dwelling on the disappointments and the negatives, because as we both know, there's plenty of disappointments in life to get caught up in.
Yeah, I think so. And it's funny, my the sister that I'm closest to in age, Nay, she's obviously, made a lot of comments on these videos and, reaches out to me a bunch, and sometimes she calls me out on stuff, and sometimes she's got an ear to hear, right? And she's been out here, but she's as far away from us as it could humanly be possible. So, you've got your mum a few minutes up the road, and, it's nice to have someone in close proximity. And it's also nice to just know that at any time you can throw a word out and get some help. And, she's been a great resource over the last few years, and she checks in and FaceTimes us with the kids, always has, right, since they were little. And now they know how to FaceTime, and they'll take the phone and run around the house with it and, show her the room or whatever present they got at a birthday party or something. And, she's been able to do that. And, that's been a blessing. And that's not to crap on anyone in my family that hasn't done that. It's that there are definitely some people, for some reason or another, that seem to have been equipped with a different ability to handle things or know how to handle things or want to handle things. And as I look at the growing list of people that have maybe found, wow, to share or to talk or to support publicly or even privately, it's just not everybody's calling. And that's been eye-opening to me to realize that what we're doing here is unique. I'm not saying we're special, but it's challenging. And to go through disappointment and to isolate and struggle with that, it's nice to just have at least a couple of people in your life and know that no matter what you say, do, or how you act, they'll always be there. They'll always be in your corner to back you up. And I think family will always be there. At the end of the day, I think everything will, smooth itself out and heal. But do you expect the same level or the same advice or the same time spent from everybody? I think I'm learning that maybe that's not the case, and sounds like you are too, with your expectations on what you've posted and just how few people are maybe reaching out to you and giving you that support.
Yeah, yeah. So it is what it is, right? It's we've both got our heads down and we're kind of grinding away at our own things right now. And I think maybe it just makes it that much tougher to be thinking about the disappointments when we could be trying to dig ourselves out a little harder and focus on what we need to get done. So I guess that's what we need to do in the end, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've really wrestled with that self-isolation because we're so many weeks into this podcast and we've talked about it, yet when that disappointment hits, we just immediately want to say, you know what, screw it, I'm done. And it's actually hard to get back into that motivated husband, father, provider, son-in-law, son, friend role all the time. I think it's so much more challenging than even I expected, because I'm watching us go through this process thinking if we can keep our heads above water, not that we're struggling, I'm saying everybody is probably going through something, but if we can continue to push through and come out the other side fully ready to help people that are struggling, I see this becoming something much bigger than we maybe originally thought. And then with the disappointment of not having a queue of people ready to share that and help others, it's really quite shocking to me, that we're still going and getting some momentum on our continuity here, but how hard it is. So if people are not willing or able or wanting to share, I think that means they've got a lot of scars that deserve some compassion, some empathy, some extra time if needed, right? Because that means that there's something really dark that they're going through or don't want to share.
Yeah. I think And I think it might be just a thing, Matt, where everybody in this day, especially post-COVID, like everybody's struggling with something. And, these people that we might be talking about here, they're probably sitting at home thinking about their own struggles, wondering why Matt and Ryan aren't reaching out to them. And it's like very well could be the same thing on the other end, right? And it's just everybody's just struggling with something, it seems.
I'd agree. I think that the social media and the reels and things we can watch for 10 seconds, they bring us that little moment of joy and we justify it. Oh, it's making me happy. I'm going to click another one. Oh, I laughed at that one. Oh, that one's really funny. Let me send that to my friend. But in all reality, there's no depth. That to me is where I think we can all get stuck in there with whatever it is that you're looking at or reading or researching. You can get stuck there and then just forget. And so this is almost like a reaching out 2.0 episode, but the handling of the disappointment side is where I'd like to just sort of wrap up with and just ask you, how do you handle it when you feel like you're the one in it? Because listen, let's just say 10 million people listen to this and they all felt the same way. That means that there's 10 million people out there that are struggling with whatever they're going through, self-worth or rejection, abandonment, disappointment, a lost a job or an injury, an addiction. They're going through it. They don't know how to reach out and help anybody else, so they just self-isolate and dig further into the hole that they're already in. What do you feel has helped you break through that self-isolation, self-negative cycle?
I think just focusing on the positives. I had a mentor one time who was in my gym, and I was upset that I was upset because we were having an event at the gym and a bunch of my coaches chose not to show up for it because it wasn't mandatory. It was kind of optional, but they chose to no show and not come to it and support what we had going on. And I remember being pretty upset by it, but he took me aside because I was getting ready to fire off a bunch of texts, upset. He took me aside and he said, let's just celebrate the coaches that are here and the people that did show up. Let's just focus on them. And I remember that day I ended up having a pretty spectacular day of joy and happiness, just focusing on the people that were there in the moment that chose to be there for me and with me. And I think that's just what we have to do in this day and age, right? Is just choose to put your energy into and focus on those that are there and just double down on that, right? And I think that's going to create a level of fulfillment that's going to snuff out a lot of that disappointment.
It's beautiful, man, because I think we've both shared, there's been a couple of people in our life that have sort of been through this with us and been that support. And I do think that sometimes we can expect too much from too many because we think they're busy on social media liking and heart and stuff. It's like, well, I need some help here, right? Where are you, kind of thing? And that's not everybody's calling. That's why there's so few really good mental therapists or marriage therapists or coaches or guys that help people win championships or tournaments, right? Mental coaches are, really good ones are very rare. I think I really like what you've just shared about what your mentor said, and I'm going to take that with me into the next week and really just focus in on the good things and being grateful, right? I think gratitude needs to be a full episode, so we won't waste time on that today, and give it a 2-minute window, but we do need to talk more about the gratitude. So I think what you've said there for me, I'm trying to process it without wasting airtime here, because that actually means a lot to me without sitting here in silence and thinking, wow, that really hit me hard, to just focus in on what's going right, what's working, and not cast aside anything that's not, but just give it time to come back around. And it may be something that I need to learn from, or it may be something someone else needs to learn from.
Yeah.
But either way, to just be able to maybe let that go and zero in on making some of those other opportunities or relationships or moments really stick and count. So thanks for that.
Yeah, man. Guys, if you want to be a guest on the show, shoot us an email, info.strengthtoovercome@gmail.com. If you feel like you're up to putting your story out there, being vulnerable, sharing some things with us and the audience. We know it's a tough thing to do, but if you have any interest, shoot us an email. Make sure you like, subscribe, share the podcast, and let's grow this thing together. We're excited for another week and to keep things going.
Yeah, Ryan, always appreciate you, mate, and all the stuff behind the scenes that keeps us going. And to those listeners and viewers that are out there and do support us, if we haven't listed you by name, we do care, we do love you guys, and we appreciate the support. So please help us grow it, and we all want to get stronger, so let's do it together. Appreciate it. Cheers.
All right, guys, we'll see you next week.
Cheers.